About talents. 7.0 introduced talents to Dota. This new mechanic replaces the old system of leveling up stats after you have maxed out all of your other abilities. Before we talk about talents, we really need to assess what stats brought to the game. Every time you put a skill point into stats, all of your attributes increase by 2. This resulted in your hero gaining 40 HP, 0.06 HP regeneration, 2/7 of a point of armor, 2 attack speed, 24 mana, 0.08 mana regeneration, 1/8 of a percent of spell damage, and 2 attack damage. These numbers are incredibly small, and I think it's safe to say that most of the time people only skilled stats because either they had no other choice, since all of their other abilities were already maxed out, or they needed the additional HP/mana pool. But that's really it. Stats are a particularly interesting mechanic. While it added a certain level of decision making to the game, this decision making was limited to about 5 heroes and the early game. Late game you leveled stats and you didn't really think about it. It wasn't a decision, and while it made your heroes slightly more powerful, it didn't change what you could do. Frankly, after you finished skilling all of your abilities and had everything maxed out, the game could have auto-leveled stats and it wouldn't have made a difference. Talents are a little different. Talents enable decision making. Obviously, you always have 2 talents to choose from, but because talents can offer more than just straight stats, they suddenly become a lot more appealing to a wider variety of heroes. The question of when to skill a talent is much more relevant to a majority of the cast than when to skill stats could ever have been. They make the game deeper and more complex than it used to be, while not sacrificing anything that they can't replace. In the early game, a lot of talents actually offer a benefit very similar to stats, to the kind of heroes that would have skilled stats. Anti-Mage at level 10 can get +6 strength, which lines up exactly with the 3 levels of stats you would have skilled otherwise. Sven at level 10 can get +6 strength or 200 mana. Yet again, very similar. So the heroes that had skilling stats as part of their game plan haven't really lost anything. While the HP or mana you were looking for comes in a bit of a different package and a little bit later, it's still there. It's also important to keep in mind that they changed how leveling works. You now need the same amount of experience to reach level 12 that you needed to reach level 11 before 7.0. And your ultimate can only be skilled for the second time by level 12. The point of that is to allow us to reach the equivalent of pre-patch level 11 in the same amount of time, but also to give us an additional skill point that we can spend on a talent. Having the third level of the ultimate only be available at 18, but making the experience needed the same as we used to need for level 16 follows the same logic. Talents are a very easy way to determine how powerful a hero or a playstyle will be at a certain point of the game. Undying, for example, gets +90 GPM or -30 seconds respawn time at level 10. These talents are obviously incredibly powerful and fit into an aggressive early game playstyle that doesn't need to worry about farming, since he'll either get plenty of money just by being around or have no downtime on his ability to fight. If they now see that these early talents are too powerful, then they simply either nerf them or put them into a later slot. By changing the slots around, you can determine when a hero will have a big power spike. Whenever we are talking about talents, it is unavoidable to discuss the level 25 talents. A lot of them are incredibly powerful. In many cases, they are just straight up broken. However, it is incredibly difficult to get to level 25, even with the change in how long it takes to get there. The new level 25 might be the old level 23, but think back. How often did you get to level 23 and the game wasn't over already? This is the key aspect that needs to be talked about. Yes, the first player to reach level 25 will get a significant boost in power. But usually, the first player to reach level 25 is already on the winning side, and as such it's going to make them win even harder. While I am not ruling out the possibility of a comeback through getting to level 25, and then your carry bashing treant comes online and you win the game from there, I believe that in most cases this is a win more mechanic, a powerful tool that the team that is already winning gains access to first, and then they win even more. While definitely fun and entertaining to play around with, The level 25 talent will only rarely have an impact on the outcome of the game, as most matches are already decided by the point you acquire it. The talents really matter during the early and mid stages of the game. We are already seeing this in action. 7.0 introduced a lot of talents for supports that help them keep up without having to farm. An increase in GPM or experience earned makes it so you have to hit less creeps and can spend more time doing other things. The current metagame is incredibly aggressive. This is not only thanks to the talents but also the neutral creeps. Creep camps now only respawn every other minute, and as such a very farm-orientated playstyle is highly ineffective. Even with the addition of the new creep camps, the overall gold and experience per minute accessible through farming the jungle has been reduced by almost a third. This is of course a very basic calculation and doesn't include the lack of stacking. While strictly speaking stacking is still possible, the increased respawn time of the creep camps makes it significantly less powerful of a strategy. The introduction of the 4 bounty runes alleviates this situation, but the important thing to note here is that they don't need to be farmed. Instead, bounty runes are simply picked up and you receive the same amount of money and experience, no matter if you're an anti-mage with Battle Fury or a Crystal main. It's something that can be done very quickly with no real commitment needed. This, in combination with powerful early talents that a lot of supports have gotten, explains the aggressive metagame. Instead of having farming and fighting as 2 separate things, the new meta merges them together. You fight, and if you survive, you're surely going to be right next to a creep camp and a bounty rune, since they are all over the map now. You fight, and if you survive, you are going to be right next to a creep camp and a bounty rune, since they are all over the map now. So you kill the creeps really quick, take the bounty rune, and heal up at the shrine. You do that until you are level 10, and then your early game talent propels you forward and allows you to play even more aggressively. This aggression snowballs you through the early and mid game and should end the game before you even go too late. In conclusion, getting rid of stats as they used to be in Dota is fine. They were a boring mechanic and are easily replaced by the talents. I wouldn't worry about the heroes that used to level up stats either. They will be fine as their talents can take that slot instead. The hype around the level 25 talents is understandable, as they are incredibly fun if you actually get to use them, but they will only matter on rare occasions. The really important part is the early game. Their supports and roaming heroes with powerful early talents will shine. The metagame will become more and more aggressive, and heroes that require a lot of farm will become less and less popular. 7.0 in its current state will be the patch of supports. In fact, supports might even be the heroes that benefit the most from the late game talents as well. Often, their level 25 talents are very powerful and allow them to scale into the late stages of the match much better than before 7.0. So essentially, a support-centered strategy is now powerful in the early stages and powerful late. Gonna be hard to keep up with that. Anyway, that's my current assessment/analysis of the talents. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. Please feel free to let me know what you think of the talents, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.